Okay, let's hit the story so far. We're hitting January of 1941. I've got the British reinforcements set up. I'm having some trouble with the Italians. I'll get to that in a moment. Operation Compass has basically started. It's not going historically. The Italians have put up, I think, a stronger defense than historical, and possibly at a cost. I'm using up a lot of hedgehogs and a lot of supply. I'm losing a fair amount of units back here, but I am delaying the Brits, and somehow I think that might help me in my ultimate defense of Tobruk. It might also hurt me. I don't know which. But the Brits have been making some advances. They've taken a couple of hogs here. This one was abandoned. Now the Italian defense of Sidi al-Barani is looking like it's about going to fall apart. Which then leads to another question, which is whether the Italians need to defend somewhere here or whatever. Basically, I don't want this road to fall to the Brits. That would be incredibly dangerous. They might be able to bypass Bardia and, just strike for Tobruk. They probably can't completely bypass, but they certainly can cut up and hit Bardia from multiple directions and put threats on pocketing the Italian force and whatnot. So there's a lot of reasons that I feel like if I'm losing this location, which is incredibly important right now, which is incredibly strong right now, I probably do have to keep falling back and defending that road. Really throughout, that road, cuts everything off. So, yeah, I don't know. Now, as to the Italian problem, I've got to change batteries. For the Italians, I've started selecting their units that come in here, and I need to find Ariete Armored Division, 8 BRS Infantry Regiment, and then a couple of other things that I haven't run into a problem with. Now, for the 8 BRS, and I haven't looked at everything, I've got a stack here. I couldn't find an infantry regiment here at all. I have 2 9 BRSs. I have the feeling that there's a misprint. It's probably corrected in my winter counters. I've got to put another try to finding them. Because unlike the rest of the Ariete units, neither of those is marked as the Ariete. Ariete. So the net effect is going to be if I put 2 9 BRSs out there, one of them, they're both going to count as independent units, which means that they're going to cost me more for fuel supply than moving, when moving this whole division, because I can't incorporate loose units ever into divisional fueling in this particular version of the game. But I have no fucking clue where to look for the damn thing. Well, good news, I found them. It was in a box, some gaming materials, some stuff for the computer that came up when I sent stuff up from Phoenix that I just couldn't figure out what to do with and whatnot. Not entirely random. I looked up in the loft. I swear I thought I saw it up there. I swear I had it up there at times. I don't know where that memory came from. But that was much of what confused me, was I thought it would either have to be in the loft somewhere where I could find it, or it would be down the basement of my filing cabinets. Turns out it's just in a box that I was like, shit, I don't know what to do with this stuff. And I have a few of those. I mean, I have a certain lack of organization. The thing that really foiled me, though, was the fact that I thought I had it elsewhere. Well, this means I can make some corrections and whatnot, as well as look for any other pieces that need to be replaced. And the bad news is I don't see anything that applies to it. I don't see any DAK counters at all. These look kind of useful. To be able to put number of supply counters in without noting anything. They have their silly ones here. I don't know what this, like a one token of some sort or another. The fuck? 0 tokens. I got no idea what the hell that is. But I don't see anything that looks like it. Interestingly enough, I don't seem to have punched counters for a number of games that I have played. Now, there's a lot of missing counters here, but I don't see anything labeled. Like Black Wednesday is here. HMS, I don't know what that is. I can't really read it. But that's not for this. It's possible that, let's see, I have 94, 95, something, 97, 90, that's probably 96 there, 99. This is probably all of them. And yeah, I don't see anything in there. I can look in the rules errata to see if there's something mentioned, but I'm beginning to feel like I'll just throw that extra. I have duplicates of the single counter. I'll just throw it in as if it's that. And that may mean that I spend more fuel than I would normally have to. A set of errata that has to be replaced, but I'll tell you what I don't have. I don't have anything that addresses this. So I guess maybe it wasn't caught. It's also possible I'm missing a counter, although I highly doubt that because I have the duplicates of the one counter. I suspect that this was just not caught and people just played the way I'm doing. That's odd because when did DAK come out? Like 99 would have all previous information in it. DAK came out in, you have a copy right here? Damn it. Looks like 97. Which is kind of a problem. Like, it's not as old as I thought it was. I thought it was a couple of years older. In which case, it almost certainly would have gotten everything caught by then. But yeah, 99 I think was the last year they sent them out. It's certainly the last year I got any. And I should have, like, I see the 99 one has a no counters. If you didn't pre-order from us, you know, in this time or send us a card, we wouldn't keep giving you stuff. Now, I kind of was keeping cards, but I may have stopped sending cards, but I should have at least gotten the paper filing after that. I assume they just stopped after 99. Anyhow, I'm just going to throw that extra counter in as if it's that. It's got the right numbers. And say, too bad the Ariete division is a little smaller. The Italian's going to have to pay more fuel costs for that particular unit, but so what? Especially careful with one like this, but I looked through it and because there are no labels on this one except a couple of little places. And that's the case with some of these, but there's no counter that could be this one. And I think I would not have given these to my buddy who had DAK, because I definitely had thoughts of getting it at some point at that time, I think. I know that I didn't give him the counters for Embrace a Foul Wind, because I knew I wanted more CWB games, right? And so I actually used those, but for this, I don't know. Anyway, wasted way too much time on this. It may be that counters are discussed in some of these. So like here's a replacement for Africa. They tell you what you need for each one, but I don't know. Haha, no, that wasn't it. Ariete was a lot bigger than I thought. It took up 2 slots in my counter tray, and I found that. And when I wasn't able to find the artillery regiment that's also supposed to come in, I began to really question, geez, what's up? I looked over here. Would have been a lot easier, but I'm glad I caught it, because nothing else would have gotten me to find the errata, and there are things that I've already had to deal with. So for example, they've taken away the anti-tank ditches in Tobruk entirely. The road, the rules are correct, the map is incorrect, which I think is how I did it, but I'm not sure. That's what I tend to do. I'll pencil in what I can find there at some later time. Right now, I want to get these reinforcements. There's nothing wrong with this month's reinforcements, according to the errata. It's a bit of a rarity. It's Saturday, drizzly, whatever. I did go out dancing, and I didn't feel terribly well, to be honest, to begin with. And so somebody suggested, basically my ear, one of my ears was filled up after I got there. And somebody suggested that if I drank water with lemon juice, that would help. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Something cleared my ear up. But I ended up drinking a lot more water than I usually do nowadays. I was in much better shape. I still passed out when I got home because fatigue, but it means that I'm, freshly bathed, washed my hair already. Raid's not quite ready to start. I got I don't know, at least an hour or so, I think. And I can play. I still haven't gotten to trying to note the rules changes. I will do that. I don't know. I don't know when I'll get to it, but some of them are in good shape. And we're beginning a new year, a new month. I don't know. Did I? I don't think. Oh no, I did. I took the 1 token out of 4 that were, because there was a full SP there. So yeah, we're ready to start 41. Let's get going. No weather, no random events. But while I was in the random events, I rolled one up. This historical force K suffers minefield disaster. July 41 or after, one time only. And it led me to realize, wow, we're going to have a problem. Maybe I, put little check marks next to things or something in the rule book. Because there's no way to mark down what events have happened. Now, maybe I can remember, and maybe it's not that terrible if this happens a second time, but I don't know. It is a little fucked up. Does that even make sense? Force K stumbles into a coastal minefield. What the fuck is Force K? I guess that's the English shipping interdiction. Anyway, initiative-wise, the Brits got the initiative. Do they want to flip things? I didn't use any of my planes, so this wouldn't be a bad turn to do it. And the Italians have pulled back and are in kind of a good position. So I think I would like them to go first, to try and just, push them, give myself the potential advantage. So far we haven't seen the advantage take place. Now, boy, I'm assuming the scenario is going to tell me when I have to deal with things like the Greek campaign. Obviously, that shouldn't have had this. I shouldn't be rolling on that yet, I think. But stuff like that, I'm hoping is in that compendium of reinforcements and whatnot. There you go. It was right in front of me, actually. Sorry. We have something kind of interesting. I've got the Italian reinforcements coming on. And we've got an exchange. 216 light armored battalion gets replaced with, or exchanged for the 426 armored 21 med. That's over here in the dead box, which means that the exchange happens in the dead box. So, I don't get this new unit. Instead, my crappy light tank that got wrecked. And I probably shouldn't have taken it as a kill if I had realized it was going to get upgraded. But I was like, wow, this is really shitty. Is this that much better? I don't know. With a 2 quality, having some armor capability might be useful, but I'm not going to be on the offensive. And its anti-tank capability is of the higher value. Yeah, no, yellow is better than red. Seems funny to me somehow. Anyway, I'll get the rest of them in there. I've done the rest of the Italian turn, which means the reinforcements, I got a shitty roll for supplies, so the reinforcements are going to be, well, they're going to be in the new box anyway. I may end up bringing this in to flush some of them down, just so that I have more stuff in the new box. But there's actually some advantage because, well, if there were more Italians coming in this month, it might have been worthwhile. It might be worthwhile to leave this here so that these new reinforcements don't end up blocking the way this is blocking. It's okay that this is blocking. It's 1 unit. I only have to spend 1 token to bring that in. So maybe I want to delay if I'm not interested in bringing these guys in. On the other hand, I don't know. Here's something that didn't happen. This is the beginning of the month, so this actually moves forward and starts its slow progress towards getting its full quality. English, we have something kind of goofy here. This is the Western Desert Force headquarters. It's getting exchanged. Oh no, this is a more powerful headquarters. Neat. With a core headquarters. I doubt this thing's coming back. But I'll put it in the removed just in case, because I don't want it. I'm only putting things in the bag if I'm absolutely certain that they're not going to come back. I don't know. Anyway, what else do I have happening here? I'm sorry, I'm like weird here. 68th Medium Artillery Battalion, the Divardi. Yeah, so At this point, the 4th Indians are now going to be divisional groups, and then they'll have their artillery added to them, mixed in with the units. Oh, this Picayune stuff. How important is it? I don't know. You know, it definitely gives them more flexibility, but the counters don't have the artillery on them, so I just fucking forget them. Things as I start to move the Brits. Why do I find that funny? I don't know. It's just a nervous laugh. One is the exertions and debauchery of last night is still enough that I'm like, my manual dexterity isn't perfect, so I'm kind of struggling with moving, with moving stacks and whatnot. I guess it shows me probably how I'll be in another 5 years, just normally, I guess. But the other is, I found like a disordered marker underneath one of the British stacks that was moving forward. And pretty sure it should have been removed, but here's the thing. Because of the way the game handles these markers, that they're like midway through the stack and you have to they're supposed to be removed during the cleanup phase. It's very easy not to be aware of exactly what, where you have one or whatever. I mean, I have trouble and end up not finding them under normal circumstances. Think about this situation. These guys are not doing the job that they're supposed to. Mainly because I don't have any artillery there. But I'm gaining ground on City al-Barani. I just am wondering, hey, maybe I want to pull out and strike up in this direction, move my headquarters up, and, just try to ignore this force here. Of course, it's got a reserve marker, so if I make an attack here, it's gonna go up there. But I don't know. The idea of spending fuel for those guys seems like it's not terribly useful to me right now. But the thing is, my headquarters is here also, and I've got this nice dump, and they're positioned exactly where I want them. But if I shift up, yeah, then my headquarters is at risk and bad things can happen. So I probably don't really want to, I really ought to get some more defense for that thing. I probably don't want to dislodge my command situation, but it's like, I just don't know. Headquarters are weird in this system because their only purpose is supply. And so they don't feel all that much like headquarters as much as like transport hubs. What though? This dump is becoming obsolete. Because I've made these breakthroughs here, I have this road, I can have my dumps up here. I can move my headquarters up there too, but it's able to draw from as far as here. So I'm actually beginning to shift things, and I think since this can draw from there and can supply those, I'm going to start draining this instead of Mersa Matruh, for whatever that's worth. It's kind of funny because I went through a lot of work to get those there, right? And I kind of didn't use them. I used them a little bit, but it's been a couple of turns since I've used them, and I've been piling stuff up there, and now I'm just like, yeah, drain that. You've got all these weird kind of like situations where you're like, there's a big dump there. I don't want that there anymore. I built it, don't need it. I realized this is stupid, I can't do this. This reserve marker, again, I'm gonna do this kind of cheating fairly regularly because the system doesn't really gel with me right now, but the Italians went second last turn. And I set this up thinking, oh, I can, use that to react up there. I do not want to do that because that halves the strength of the units in there. So, like, while they're in reserve status, if I activate the reserve status, which I could do right now, whatever. But if I activate the reserve status, it would prevent. But there was a possibility that 7th Armored could just overrun that shit at half strength and whatever. It's better quality units. I am so cautious about launching an attack. I don't want to lose British forces. Like, these Italian forces, killing them, it's great and all, but I don't feel like they're going to be terribly effective throughout the campaign. But some of the British forces I do kind of want to destroy, and that's part of the problem, is I've got these guys back here that are semi-dead, but they're only dead if other stuff, like, piles into them. And I think that's mainly 7th Armored stuff. So I kind of do want to get it beat up. I don't know. I decided I want to clear this anyway. So, and that's what made me look at the reserve and say, oh, whoa, that's an opportunity. And I'm like, no, let's not do that. But I am going to launch the attack. I'm going to throw O'Connor in because I've got iffy chances on this. I don't know the numbers before I make that decision. But the supply cost for this, it cost me 1 to fuel up, one full SP to fuel up the 7th Armored. And then it cost me 2 more full supply to make the attack. So, I'm using 3 full supply points. I don't have all that many up here. I mean, Mersa Matrua has 12, right? That's my big dump in the area. So I'm using, I'm not going to say a quarter, but yeah, maybe a fifth of my total supplies just to launch this one attack. But other attacks that I've made with these guys, for example, because of all the fucking artillery that they throw in, have been more expensive. Even though this, I have to fuel up units. It's a weird, I don't know, there's like, it's just so hard to make the commitment to spend all that, right? One thing that's a little funky about the 7th Armored, because they did such great work in the early part of the campaign, their units are actually higher quality than they will be with the replacement units. The replacement units have better tanks in them. So it's like this funky like concept here of like, yeah, are you sure you want to lose those good units? But I feel like it's got to happen at some point or another. Let's bust through. Anyway, I'm just trying to delay having to make the actual calculations here. I wasn't going to use the optional rule for proportional losses to units due to step losses, but I can't remember what the other rule is. Like, proportional losses, look, this Italian unit here has 1 step loss on it. It's a 2-step unit. I can just have the strength. That makes sense. It's easy to do. The other side of things, I think it's like subtract 1 from the strength, but I'm not sure. And rather than look it up, I'm just going to use that optional. I actually think it's better. And yeah, I think the 7th Armored just gets worse from fighting. They're just so good at this point. I took a loss. My 8 Hussies died, but I'm getting a defender lose 1 option when the defender's going to take two hits off this as well. They don't want to give up the hedgehog, and that'll stop the attack, I believe. I don't believe you can keep slamming into the same hex. I gotta look that up. Because I didn't take the retreat, I am able to keep hitting it. Here's the problem. I lost the leader again. That is pretty bad luck, honestly. I've lost 2 of my 3 leaders. pretty to death, you know. I mean, captured is probably just as bad, if not worse, because I don't get him back unless my opponent agrees to give him back. You know, yeah, you want to exchange, sure. Wounded is, I think they come back at some point. I don't remember. I'm not going to look up the rules for it right now. But yeah, I mean, what are we looking at? 1, 2, 3. About a 1 in 6 chance on each attack, and I think I've gotten 2 leader deaths out of, you know, three attacks I made or something like that. I don't know. Overrun attempt, I didn't get surprise, which got me a lousy attacker lose 1, defender option 1. I lost a pretty good unit, killing off some crappy Italian machine gunners. I still had a +2 advantage, and yeah, just that's the end of the road for these guys for this turn. I had to leave this infantry out because it didn't have enough movement points, but now this unit isn't going to have enough movement points, and I'm just like, yeah, okay. we're not getting the edge that we wanted out of this, and we're losing good units. The lead units we're using. These are guys who aren't going to come back. They're going to come back as worse units, is what it turns out. I thought, as in the Desert Fox, that like my rebuilds would be stronger. Yeah, they're not. But the Desert Fox doesn't cover this part of the campaign where the 7th Armored was sort of godlike, you know, and really made its reputation. And probably never, I guess the idea is that they never lived up to it, you know, to the same extent that they did during this campaign. Bombardment ended up disordering this. We get to the Italian reactions, and they have to do movement before barrage. I got an activation on these guys. So, and this is why the leaders in the comp groups are so powerful in this, because you don't have a reserve marker on them, but they can act like reserves if they get lucky. And he got lucky. The only things they could reach were the armored units, so I paid some fuel cost and headed up out of there. I'm definitely going to bomb the shit out of these, whether or not I want to use planes or artillery. I'm running a little low on supplies at this point, so I think I'll keep using planes instead of artillery for this, even though I've got the reserve marker where it belongs and everything. It takes me a while, but I'm slowly beginning to get used to, you know, the things I have to do mechanically to make, you know, to play by the rules, essentially. Which, you know, I mean, it's always a learning game for me, for OCS. It just always is, because I don't know. I definitely could have and planned to play something else right after Reluctant Enemies, but because most of the games are so long and big, you know, it was like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna put, you know, I'm not gonna play another one right away. And it's just turned out that every time I play it, I've forgotten how to play in between. You know, the guys who are really into this probably play them a couple times a year. And that stays fresh then, right? You know? Actually, I'm going to use the artillery because I can get like 56 strength points of artillery fired. For bombers, I'm only allowed to throw 3 bombs in, 3 into any individual place. So that's like 16, 20 is the most I can get off of that. So I think that's what I'm going to do is play things out with with the artillery and the bombers. I may throw some additional bombers into here. Just he still can attack, even though he's tried a couple overruns. I don't think he will, but you know, he ran out of movement points, so maybe he wants to. Not the two I'm most worried about, these guys here. So there's not going to be an attack. So my reserve, you know, it's kind of wasted, but whatever. This goes away. I can't reach it. Again, my hands, my brain, nothing's working quite right now. I took some attrition. Another bomber got hit. I think the Brits are going to launch that attack because it isn't that bad. And given that these two attacks were stopped, I feel like I have to, you know, try to make some progress. And hitting that again, I should be able to bust through it. By the way, this is the first time I've been in non-open terrain. It's close terrain, which means on the combat table, it's a different line, which also hurt things in addition to the hedgehog and everything else. That went terribly wrong. Even with a +2 bonus, the Italians got surprised on the defense and managed to knock out 2 irretrievable units. Now, this one actually comes back as something else, but it comes back as something. First of all, this is a pretty decent unit. Again, 4 quality. It's coming back as, in this case, this thing, which has a 2 quality. It's also not part of 7th Armored. So yeah, this is kind of a painful lesson that the British are getting here. The 7th Armored is just failing. Now, is it my fault? Some of it is, I'm sure. But you know, with the lack of air power and some of these rolls and whatnot, yeah, I'm getting my ass kicked here. And maybe the Italians will make it to Alexandria. I don't think so. All right. I think that's it. With no exploits, obviously, which means we hit cleanup, and yeah, that's end of turn. And I know I spent too much fucking time on this turn. You know, first of all, I spent too much time playing it because of my mental and physical state. But I also spent too much time babbling about it. And I've got to get better. I've got to start, like, giving the narrative and not worrying so much about going into all the details. But because the system's still new to me, speaking about it actually helps reinforce, you know, my knowledge. So it's one of the problems with playing solo in a way, because if you're playing opposed, you're constantly, you know, you've got your opponent there, you can be talking about the system and whatnot, and it helps reinforce. So in some ways, my using the, I've got like this light there, but I think I know what it is. I think it's that little light down there, my night light. It's one of the advantages of using the camera and you know, doing these recordings. Just like reading through the rules on camera tends to be, also discussing the game tends to reinforce it in a way that, like, you know, I think ordinary solo play doesn't give. So that's kind of cool. One thing to note, so somebody who forgets what the thing is, oops. I knew how I wanted to start the sentence, but I forgot why I wanted to say the sentence. Wow, that kind of blows. Oh well. Yeah, I had something cool in mind. Oh, yeah, yeah. One thing of note is that supplies are beginning to run low on both sides, right? I've used up about half my British supplies, and they don't get them very fast. I may have to start trucking, instead of trucking forward from here, because I can drain from Mersa Matrua with these guys anyway, I may want to start pushing supplies from Alexandria by road instead. The Italians have a much harder problem. Now, I spent a lot building those hedgehogs and whatnot, but yeah, I mean, I'm getting kind of worried, and I too may want to get my truck moving stuff forward. Like, there's a fair amount in Tobruk, but again, I've run through a shit ton of supplies for these fights, and pretty soon I'm going to start draining, units, stockpiles and whatnot. That is a bad spiral to get in. And remember, the Italians can't retreat. I mean, they can to some extent, but they can't voluntarily, cross the Mussolini line beyond certain numbers. Now, I kind of feel like I should fudge that because, I could go look at the dead units and count these and try to figure out, hey, what do I actually have to keep across that Mussolini line before, See, the problem is the game gives you these specific numbers of different types of units and whatnot. And it's kind of a pain in the ass to keep track of it all. And I kind of feel like, well, I'm doing a good enough job, but I kind of have to bookmark it at least and get an idea of where, or benchmark it, and get an idea of how close I am to being able to withdraw, right? And if I'm gonna do the counting once, well, we'll see what comes of it, right? But to me, it's kind of like, because the thing is, I don't know at all if I've I may have lost enough units over there that it just qualifies. Wow, I'm really chattering a lot. It's goofy now in the sense that I'm not really enjoying talking, but also, unlike some of the times, but also I'm not trying to delay playing. I'm done for the day. I'm pooped. All right, here it is, Sunday. It looks pretty enough. I may actually try to deal with my wood today. I feel healthy enough and whatnot. To the game, no random events, no weather. The Italians got the initiative roll, but because some of their planes are inactive, they're going to have to shift the turn so that they can, or they're going to have to maintain going first. The potential advantages that come from the British could actually have, if they had won the initiative, they could swing it around, make themselves go first, grab a second turn in a row, and honestly, the planes wouldn't be recycled. The Italian supplies that are nearby are being depleted. They might be able to get a jump where the Italians don't have the supplies in order to fire their weaponry and whatnot. It's all kind of, there's the internal stocks and everything, and they give you a little bit of play, is what it comes down to, but that they come at a cost. Drifting around, again, the thing I mentioned before with the disordered counters, same with reserve. If some of your units in the stack are in reserve, it's hard to keep track of that. I try to tilt counters and whatnot to expose stuff. Oh, I ought to probably move this guy somewhere. I don't know where. I think he'll move down here. Actually, I think I'll swap. Wait, no, this one's better. I'll swap this guy in. Okay. Give me a little bit of flexibility if I need it. But there was something else also. Like, my brain is not holding up well anymore. I don't remember what I was going to say. There was something of more importance to me that I was going to bring forward. But the Italians did not, and this I don't think was it, but they didn't shift forces out. They needed, first of all, they needed to recover their disordered units, which is another reason not to force the Brits to go. The Brits could have gotten a really powerful double turn had the Italians been idiots. But I didn't want to spend the fuel to move a couple of those armored units out of the stack where they reacted to. Just because my fuel supplies are getting, well, my supplies are getting too low for that to be worthwhile. Another thing I have to remember is, you know, I have things marked as fueled, and then I forget, and I leave them that way. It just, there's a lot of little cleanup type action that often just doesn't happen when you expect it to. All right. So Italian fire has again stymied the Brits, and I didn't want to like try a counter battery fire beforehand. Like, that's an option, is reduce the Italian artillery by bombarding the shit out of it, and then it'll have less effect on you. So the Italians are the only ones spending supplies right now, but they've stopped the Brits. Now, in terms of the 7th Armored, they have no desire to have a turn like last turn, so they didn't attack. They were also bombed, but not by a lot of planes. The Italians are down to only 4 planes total, which may mean that, you know, they can only send 3 bombers at a time in a 4-plane mission, and they don't need a fighter escort right now. So I think the British have been stopped yet again by the Italian artillery fire and whatnot. I mean, I could attack disordered, you know, but you know, if it's disordered versus disordered, because we've got to start gaining some ground, man, and we can't just sit here and be bombed to shit. But on the other hand, I don't know, because the Italians only spent a little bit more than what they could bring in here. I gotta get this truck. I gotta get this truck down to Tobruk so we can start shipping stuff there. I've got it here in the hopes that I have enough supply that moving the truck makes sense. I can actually load the truck up with supplies and deliver it and its supplies as the same thing, which is kind of a cool, a loaded truck costs the same to move as an unloaded truck, which is kind of interesting. I think that's wood and not a cat. Okay. I get distracted easily. Do the Brits want to try to punch their way through anyway? Like, part of it is there's sort of this so what if I get delayed too long, but Tobruk's defenses get improved as time goes on, whether or not the Italians are still holding it. And there is something of a race to try to get it back, you know, and get those defenses in place so that when the German attack comes, there's something there. I don't know. When are the Germans coming? Yeah, I mean, do the Brits even know that, right? Like, how much pressure are they under in a realistic sort of sense? And then there's also the, you know, the clear, hey, I can look in the rules and look at the scenario situation, not the British. And I start looking here, and look, February, it's more Italians coming in, but it's decent stuff. Oh, this is interesting. I'd have the option to motorize the Trento instead of getting truck points. I think I'd rather have truck points. We start getting Germans as early as March. Oh, no. We start getting them in February. Yeah, we had better make some ground. All right, I'm gonna try to pound those at that Italian position then. I just feel so handcuffed. That was bloody painful. Came out on the 2-to-1. The Italians actually had the higher rated unit because of the hedgehog and whatnot. They committed this kind of very nice unit, figuring, hey, maybe we can do a lot of harm. We didn't do a lot of harm. I got an option, which meant I could have chosen not to lose it and fallen back, but I feel like I'm holding him. I've got him so bottled up right now, I might as well just keep hurting him and slowing him down. I'm going to have to, you have to make this choice at some point or another. At some point or another, you have to lose units, right? It's like the 7th Armored now. The 7th Armored was a loss without a value, but both players threw their leaders in. The Italian leader was killed, and Jock Campbell up here was wounded for 3 months. So now we're pretty much without actual leaders on the board, I think. The Brits have lost all theirs, although they get Campbell back eventually. The Italians have lost the only one they have. I don't know how to batter my way through this shit. I gotta keep attacking because I gotta make some ground. But yeah, I just feel like the Brits are completely stopped by this setup that the Italians have here. And again, this may just be me being very incompetent on offensive. But yeah. Possible answer is I've thrown so many Italian resources into holding the line inside Egypt that it is actually hard to take. But if that's the case, this becomes a very, very powerful strategy, right? I don't see a way around them very easily. I don't see a way to bash my way through. Now, again, maybe the Brits have gotten unlucky. Maybe I have committed attack malpractice somehow. I don't know. You get out of the habit of doing anything at all, it gets really easy to make more fucking excuses. Everything's really too wet. And it's not just an excuse. It truly is. Like, the logs that are down there are too big for me to haul at this point, the pieces of tree that are left. I absolutely have to take the chainsaw to them, which is fine. But I don't know. I just don't feel like cutting the wood when it's wet. It can be done. It's a little less safe, a little less pleasant and everything. And I don't know. It really looks like it's going to be a less, it's something I don't want to do right now. Now, had I made that decision, say 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe a little longer, back when I was a little bit less inactive, I would have said, okay, but let me do something else, whatever that is, some cleaning around the house or picking up, sticks that are down in the yard and stuff like that. But no, I'm just going to come here and play this. And in a way that, to some extent, me playing DAK or a board game or whatever is actually more active than most of what I've been doing for the past couple of years. So let's not be too harsh on ourselves for doing this and being willing to and enjoying it. All right. So the beginning of this day 8 of January. Couple of interesting things happened. First of all, rainstorms showed up here and here. This is a fuck up. The Brits also got initiative. The Brits would definitely take a double turn at this point if it weren't for the fucking rainstorms. But the rainstorms cause a serious issue, and we try to remember what the hell they are. Wadis become impassable. Okay, we're not too worried. All air units on the affected maps are inactive. That's not a problem. Terrain costs are doubled. Yeah, we're going to take that. We're going to take that extra move, the double move. That means the Italians are going to have to tax their supplies even more. And honestly, this reserve marker isn't even here. It was used, so I don't get any firepower, which means by getting the double turn, the Brits get a massive advantage. Now, it's kind of funny. The 4.3 rules have an option for being able to use artillery in a reactive sense without the reserve marker. And I'm really torn on that, okay? I am really torn on that. Which way did I go with it? I think I chose to go with not using that option. It's one that Dean doesn't seem to think is a good idea, but man, it really feels like it hurts here because I was directing fire. I've got enough supply, I think, to continue, but I think I'm going to lose the hex because of the turn switch in conjunction with the fact that the reserve marker was spent in order to perform the fire. You have to actually take things out of reserve in order to use them, and now it's no longer in reserve, so it can't keep firing. I've been on the fence about this rule, right? But yeah, okay. That actually brings up a question. Somebody brought up, and I discussed this with them a little bit. Hey, if you're using the 4.3 rules, why aren't you using the DAK rules for DAK 2? Well, there's two reasons. The main one is, if I don't have a published rule book, I don't play, right? Like, I'm not going to print out I'm not going to either use an electronic version nor am I going to print out the rules for DAK 2, which would cost me a fortune. But then there's also, I don't know what changes may have taken place, right? The series rules are back compliant in all cases. There may be some special cases listed in them, but they're taken care of. If there is anything, and there are a few, that apply to DAK specifically, the original DAK, that don't work exactly the way the 4.3 rules state, it says so in these rules. The DAK 2 rules may say you can use these for DAK. I don't know. Given the fact that I don't have them, I can't really tell you that. Now, again, I could look at electronically and whatnot. But even if I had the DAK 2 rules for some reason in addition to DAK, there's some chance that the countermix, the components, whatever, don't quite match the same game. And there's also a reasonable argument that they're functionally the same, you know. I kind of doubt that it's going to be, like, I feel like they are either going to be so close to each other that there's almost no difference, and screw it, I might as well. Because it's not like DAK 2 is working off the 4.3 rules, you know. It's working off of, not far from these rules, the 2.1 rules. I don't know, you know, maybe it's major version 3 or something like that. Anyway, yeah, the Brits are going to get a big advantage off of this and may get their breakthrough just by this lucky turn flip. But they need it, man. They need it. Now, over here, we lost our Hurricane, our last remaining fighter, and a Blenheim 4 bomber. We have almost no air power at all. The Italians totally have air superiority at this point. The only thing we have is this Wellington here, which is not terribly helpful. So I'm not sure that, like, the situation I'm in right now is all that unusual. But I can't break through. I cannot break through. This did not go away yet. That reserve marker is still there. Okay. Just checking everything out. The disordered remains, which means I don't have to throw more bombardment in. And all the Italians have that they could use the artillery, but they can't because there's no reserve marker there anymore. They could use the air power, but they can't because they didn't get a chance to unflip it. And also, there's a rainstorm, they can't fly. So the rainstorm actually helps me. I wanted to check to make sure that there wasn't an effect on combat here, and there isn't. There is an effect on movement costs, which, could affect the capability to overrun, but I'm not going to be doing that. And again, no great and magical breakthrough happened here. The Brits had good odds. They were on the 4-to-1 table. They didn't get surprised, even though they had a slight advantage. And then they got like a 3 on the die roll for the combat table. It ended up being a loss for each, well, a loss for the Brits, an option for the Italians. The Italians chose to lose another good unit, but they're holding the Brits off and causing continual damage. It feels like I'm doing things right by doing so. I don't know, certainly can't complain about the results the Italians are getting out of this. The rainstorms prevented, all the nastiness from happening in terms of bombers and all kind of stuff like that. The bombers weren't going to be able to get there. Actually, the rainstorm is in the worst places for the British, where the fight is, which might have been okay, I don't know. It didn't really affect much. And then, on their route back to Alexandria, so the roads, even the primary roads are doubled and cost more. So, yeah. All right. That'll put it on the Italian turn. This battery is already going low. I guess I pulled one that hadn't fully charged. I don't know. So, the next turn is no weather, no event. But the Brits got the initiative roll. And now, is there any cost to them turning this back to the Italians and forcing the Italians to go next? At this point now, the Italians have their reserves and everything all set up. And by forcing the Italians to go first, I get the possibility of another one of them double turns, which could work out very well. The last one didn't. But I don't see much advantage to me going first, except for one thing. And it's one thing that the Brits don't actually have as much information as I have about, which is the supply condition that the Italians are in. That's the one place where I'm like, okay, look, if I keep the pressure up by going first, I will drain their supply more quickly. However, I don't think that's worth it. I'm going to flip this anyway. But let me roll a die. On a 1, I will keep going first because I'll be assuming that the supply is worse than it actually is, basically. No. If this was a turn where the Italians had almost no supplies up here, it might be worth starting to push them over the edge by, forcing them to use their local reserves or not being able to get the artillery fire that they need to do, et cetera. But they actually have enough, and it's very hard to make the I have not found myself in a position where I feel like in OCS games that I can look and say, huh, my opponent doesn't have enough supplies. And I can say that definitively, you know? So I think it would be very unlikely for the Brits to come to that conclusion and to make a decision based on that. So the Italians continue their toll with artillery and air power to stop the British capability here. Now, here's one difference between this and the compass scenario I played. The compass scenario I played had British naval gunfire coming into play. I am not, there was no indication of any in the reinforcements here, and I don't think it happens by normal means. I gotta look that up. But anyway, the Brits on their side did manage to get a disorder on this, so we're gonna see if the 7th Armored can break through there. But let me look up that naval gunfire, because that's something that, you know, is not interdictable. I can't, like the airplane, I can't use. It's just gonna get shot down. But the bomber. But boats, there's nothing the Italians can do about that. So the 7th Armored finally makes its breakthrough or whatever there. It wasn't that impressive. But the Italians would have been basically wiped out had they not retreated. So they give up the Hedgehog there. This is potentially important. It opens up a path this way. But again, I have the capability to say, build a defensive line here now and try to stop them once more, you know, which, if we're looking, let's see. Let's say I pick this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. That allows me to trace all the way back to Bardia. And actually, Bardia has a headquarters which allows me to trace all the way back to Tobruk, which means, you know, defending this line here or whatever would actually be in a better supply situation. Whether the 7th Armored can make that kind of, you know, push there, there's not much here, and building more Hedgehogs seems like an expense the Italians really can't afford anymore, which then opens up a lot of big questions, because actually, no, this is even dangerous. I could come this way. So there are a lot of different pathways that the Brits could go forward in, but they only have one headquarters. And that headquarters has to draw from back here, which is really here right now. I can essentially, I'm barely in supply here, which means now I have the 12th throw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you know? I mean, they can do quite a bit. They could pocket the Italian forces in Sidi Barrani, which would be very problematic if I've got enough oomph left on the British side. Anyway, kind of impressed with how far, with the fact that the Brits got their breakthrough. If this had happened a little earlier, the Italian position would look a lot worse. And I think really some bad luck that I got down there with the 7th Armored is a big part of what stopped me. Also, my reticence to use them earlier, although given how battered they were when I did, how much they got battered when I did start using them, they have taken some heavy hits. And again, you know, I can't rebuild the units yet. I have no replacement points right now. When do I start getting replacements? Geez, I don't know. I mean, it's 41. Shouldn't I be getting them now? Until 26th of April. So I haven't, I had this worry that, you know, oh shit, I'm screwing up. I'm not getting my reinforcements. Starting in February, we start getting Italian reinforcements. This is the kind of thing that I'm likely to forget and fuck up. And I'm glad I didn't, because being able to put, especially the Brits at this point, being able to put more units on the line would be incredibly helpful, but I just don't have them. This dump's gone, this one's being drained. Yeah. A little later in the day, but let's try to push out one more, let's push out one more turn. There's no try here before raid happens, or before I happen to raid. And forgot to roll random event. I did the other things. It's unlikely that anything happens. And in fact, it's just a plain old no event, so I don't even have to read it. But we have rain on the two ends of the map. Rain is always two maps. That's not going to really favor anyone, but I don't know. I guess it's kind of annoying for the Italian piles that are moving through this map, but they're not really expecting to get anywhere. The English got the initiative roll. They're going to force the Italians to go first, which just keeps things as it is. I don't see. I could grab going first. Actually, yeah, no, I want to. I want to grab the double turn because I get the attack here, which will not be able to be reacted to. The planes are already used. Oh, hell yeah. There we go. So the first thing I wanted to do was move these, the forces that were back here to get an overrun against the Italians there. Now, I've got a real problem right now because I'm juggling several different movement allowances here. And as I'm doing it, I realize, oh, hey, after I spend the fuel for it, I also need the ammo for the overruns, and it's not within range. And I don't want to deplete my ammo right now, if I can help it. So I kind of paused the whole action and used my trucks to bring ammo up here. The thing is, you can actually, you can use the ammo that you moved that turn, you just can't double move it. Whatever that might consist of. So I'm doing all kinds of shit to try to get enough ammo in place to launch the attack. I don't know if it's going to be enough, but we're going to try and overrun there. British bad luck gets to the extreme. I had a +4 on the quality check. I rolled snake eyes on an overrun. Defender got surprised. 6 columns moved. Now, I was up here on this column, which would basically be, hey, you take no damage, which is the good thing about when you want to use high quality units especially, is when you're not going to take any losses. And they help you not take losses. But instead I shifted over to here where I get an attacker option 1, exploit 4, defender lose 1, option 2. Now this is an overrun, so an exploit doesn't really matter. I kind of get the exploit no matter what, in the sense that I just get to keep moving during the attack. But if I don't take the option, the defender takes very few losses. I will be wiping out the defender if I do the option. And so, but on the other hand, there isn't that much of the defender overall, and I do know what he has now that I hit him. This is all he's got, and that's his lead unit. So, I guess I just kind of, I don't know. I guess I'll take the option to bust him up, but yeah. I don't know what happens to that conf group. But he's not able to take his full option, which doesn't matter. He's not going to be able to retreat anyway. Yeah, I'm not going to take the option. I'm gonna fall back, or I'm going to retreat from this hex, giving that back up, stopping my attack. The defender has to lose 1, and doesn't end up having to fulfill an option. It unfortunately gives up the breastworks, or the. Oh, what is this? I don't know. It's like I've got these tons and tons of units that, yeah, I just don't know if I'm going to build any of these, right? And they're flooding, in both cases, they're flooding the force pool there. Because it's an overrun, I can pull more units up, so I moved some stuff up from this headquarters, figuring it's not really any threat. I could have moved this up as well, but I'm running really low on fuel, which is the real problem here, or resources. And then I launched an attack here after the artillery bombardment and everything. I'm almost out of resources to continue the attack. And I have not broken through at Sidi al-Barani. Once I take it, I will get some additional stuff. I get 2 extra SPs, which doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, you have to remember, I had like close to 20 when this offensive started. Now I have nothing. And 2, well, that's sort of the nothing that I'm talking about. But I got an exploit. I don't know if I can pay for another attack. And yeah, the Italians decided to take their options as losses in order, again, to hold that hedgehog, to slow the Brits down just a little bit more, give me a little bit more time. Among other things, I need to develop a defense, I think, like here or something, or maybe up here. I'm not sure which, but I really do need to build one. And I don't have the resources for them to, build a hedgehog or whatever, probably. But at least I can, get some units there. So what that'll mean is during the exploitation phase, I get another opportunity to hit those units. Now, I was on, the 3-to-1 table, got a nice surprise that got me up into this top range again. No, I don't have the movement points to overrun now. I would have had the movement points to overrun before, but I wanted the artillery to disorder. So yeah, during the exploitation phase, I'll just be doing the regular combat segment. Although I do have all my intrinsic artillery, to those brigades. And that's why the artillery should have been down here, because these guys were going to had their own artillery available. I do still have all that available, but I'm not firing all my artillery. Firing the stuff back here, I just don't have. I don't have enough supplies to, press with everything the way I would like to. An exploitation attack is successful, but what I did manage to prevent was the Brits coming in, smacking up my artillery or something like that they could have done on an exploit move. So, or just grabbing Sidi al-Barani, actually. So I've got, it was right to stand and fight, even though I lost another unit, but that's okay. The piles keep growing, And that will put me onto the Italian side of the turn. Feels like we're actually getting somewhere, but it took everything. It took all our supplies. Oh, shit. Remember how I fucked up last time? On that sort of September to October shift? Well, shipping is less during January. And I have been cheating, especially with just the one coastal shipping. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to charge Italy this in its entirety. And then otherwise, just because they just got 0 this turn anyway. So none of my stuff's coming. And just live with the fact that, oops. It's really hard for me to remember to check the new shipping numbers. Because they just kind of gel in your head. Yeah, I got 2 shipping every turn, that kind of thing. I don't know why. I'm just having a hell of a time. And I did that right, at least. Okay. It's that end of the month stuff where I kind of rush because maybe it's raid time, it was this last time, and don't really ponder everything that I might need. All right. Now I do have some coastal shipping that I can use. Hold on. Let's get another full supply point up here to Tobruk. That's the one coastal shipping I have available. And beyond that, the Italians are beginning a withdrawal from here. You can see they gave up another hedgehog here. They pulled away down here. That goes away. I'm out of supply with these guys. They're trying to make this quick dash across the desert. I assume they'll make it. I don't know. I didn't calculate it out. But this is where they were supplied from. I don't think that unit's going to help much, but it's doing me nothing down here, right? That's not entirely true. Because the Brits could retake this and put themselves in or could take that and put themselves in a position where, now options down here are more limited. But there's just not a hell of a lot you're going to do away from the coast. And I just kind of feel like, yeah, fuck that stuff. One of the biggies is, since I don't have supplies to defend the territory, and I lost the hedgehog that was holding, City al-Brani, sure, I could have fallen back and just been in a little cluster here. That looks like death. But like crossing the Wadi here was expensive, shit like that. So whatever's coming back is pretty limited. Now, one of the questions with what's coming back is, well, wait a minute, dude, don't you have to keep a certain amount of forces beyond the Mussolini line or in Egypt itself? Now, Egypt itself is easy. That's this line. I'm fine with that. But I checked the Mussolini line stuff, and I have to keep a headquarters and one of my artillery regiments beyond that line. But everything else, I've taken enough losses to account for. It's just there were a couple of things that I have to leave in place. Now, this headquarters is fucking useless. Can't find any supplies anywhere. That is just life. Actually, I could move some supplies up to Bardia. I've got a truck here. Hold on. Let's start trucking stuff around. Knowing that supplies is weaker, and I should be back quite a few supply points. Like, I took one away from Tripoli. I should actually have lost 2, 3. So here's a fair assessment. I will eat these 3 from Bardia as well. I could have moved them in place of the others. But this puts me in a tighter and tighter cramp in terms of my trucks could go pick those up or something. I do have some reserve supplies up here. And I think might have a little bit here, yeah. So I've got some that I can pull on to try to, get some additional stuff into Tobruk. But the defense of this area is beginning to look really, really questionable, because I held out for so long here and wasn't aware of what my supply situation was. Okay, let us, I guess, kick into the next turn. And, yeah. It's not like the British got out of this easily. They definitely paid a price to make this attack. I don't know which way it's going to work out. I don't know if it's going to work out well, because they're pretty much down to the bone in terms of their supplies as well. It's just, this is the turn, it's the supplies that killed the Italians. It's the lack of supply. And I wasn't pre-planning for this. I wasn't aware of this. And oh boy, look at all the riches that come in soon when Rommel starts to show up and everything. But honestly, I don't see how the Brits are going to take Tobruk. They might be able to take Bardia. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to do that either. They have nothing left supply-wise. They have, and not a good capability for moving a lot of supplies. I know a number of you, many of you, maybe the majority, would be trying to use Plexi in a case like this. I wanted to just mention something that came to my mind. If the maps get messed up the way they're regularly getting messed up, and that has to do with my sectional tables and all kind of stuff like that, as well as the poochiness, this particular map was a problem. That's why this is here. My tape doesn't stick well because it's not meant to. But it is far worse to have the maps become misaligned underneath a huge piece of plexi than it is otherwise. And if this were like sectional pieces, like 5 pieces of plexi, well, they would do absolutely no good whatsoever, because the pieces have to span the cracks in the map. And if it happens underneath the cracks underneath the plexi, it's much, much harder to fix the maps after they get skewed. Just as a point, I have done that before, and it has been an issue. So it is not the solution to my problem, even though some of you seem to think that, like, oh yeah, just throw some plexi on it and it'll hold them in place. Yeah, it doesn't, because there's the damn tables that move around a little bit. You know, if I had a huge conference table, yeah, maybe. Could still bump, could still slide things underneath, less likely. And if it does, no matter what, if it does disrupt the maps, the problem is much, much worse to solve. It's not just me realigning a map here and there. Here it is, Monday. There's some shit going on down here. I don't think you can see, but there's like flashing lights. I don't know, like a wrecker truck or something. Woke up late enough again that, you know, I can put a couple hours in before it's raid time, and I can play some of this, I don't know, I didn't even go to bed that late. I spent a lot of last night just fucking around online, not getting anything useful done, not playing the nighttime game that I kind of wanted to, because I'm like, oh, maybe I'll be able to go down with my chainsaw and do some work down there, but it's still wet, and I can't be too upset about it. But yeah, it's time to put in my couple of turns of DAK. It's not February, so I don't have to worry about the skip turn. I don't know if I'll make it through the end of the month today. I was kind of hoping I would, but it doesn't look like it. I think I woke up too late. So, the Brits got the initiative roll, and I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not like in contact with the enemy. I should not have this fucking thing here. See, this is what sucks. The Italians went second, and if I always forget, reserve is not a good state to be in if you want to fight. That's gotta be here. But I could have pushed someone like this up there, and that would give me an opportunity to react if I wanted to. And I'll take that reserve marker off the map. I don't know what I'm using it for. But again, I don't want to have too many reserves out there. Okay. If I force the Italians to go again, they could keep digging in. And I'm a little worried about that. I'm not really aware of how bad their supply situation is, but I am aware of how bad mine is. But it gets a lot better if I take City Brownie. I think I'm going to keep the initiative because I think I want to keep things rolling. This is real close to, again, one of those die rolls, because I know things that I shouldn't, but also I'm absolutely not sure what my decision should be, to tell you the truth. Even with all the information in hand, I'm not sure which way I should go. Which, yep, I am guilty to some extent of relying on the die roll for decisions. And honestly, I do it opposed too. Like if I'm at a position where I'm like, I just don't know. Sometimes I will roll a die to help me make my decision. Because, in part, I like to be less predictable in some cases. Not many, not many. Like, if I can't, you know, if I have a clear path that makes sense to me, I just go with it. But here, I would be tempted, because of the lack of knowledge and everything, to say, you know, I just don't know. Maybe I'll let the fates decide. And no weather, no events, by the way. And and the Brits have no aircraft to recover, so I come to the reinforcements, and oh boy, this is one that I find weird. I think I can parse it, but it's a little painful. All right. Remove 7th Armored Division, 6 RTR, 8 Hussar Armored Battalions. If 7th Armored Division, 2 RTR Armored Battalion is dead, then replace one of the 2 being removed with it. Okay. So I have to look for the 2 RTR Armored Battalion. And again, this is painful because some of these may be covered up. That's the 8 Hussies. That's the 6 RTR, which I think was supposed to be removed. It's the 2nd rifle. I don't think the conditional applies. Let me look again. 2 RTR Armored Battalion. Okay, that's this unit here, isn't it? No, that's 2nd Armor. Fuck. That's the 7 RTR. There's the 2 RTR. So that's not dead, which means that it doesn't get replaced. So I look for the 6 RTR and the 8 Hussies, which I think are both up here in the dead box. What are they called again? This is what's 6 RTR and 8 Hussies. And yeah, we're moving awfully fast. Get seasick. 8 Hussies is here. 6 RTR is here. And I wouldn't want to just remove them. They would have to go into the dead pile. They're not recoverable units, but they have to go kind of under those. So I've already lost these 2. I don't think I have to do a damn thing. And otherwise, there's no replacement for these 2. So this turn, there are no replacement reinforcements. I have a skull there. That could mean that the Axis has something as well. Although I think, well, we're getting Germans. Huh. I don't think I have that there. 1 Junker 52. I think that was supposed to happen the 5th of January. What the hell? And the Flieger Corps was supposed to become active. What happened here, man? I have something up here on the 22nd. Oh, this says 22nd here, placing any Italian headquarters. Now, Germans is here, which says 1 Junker 52. And I think all that happened was I stopped here and didn't keep reading. So I've got to deal with these 2 other. The Flieger Corps being active, oh shit. Well, that means my rolls here should have been better than they were. And we've already like reversed things back and forth on everything. And I have no idea what that was going to affect. But I have to hunt down the rules on that and deal with that as well. Glad I looked this up. I didn't think that this would have any impact. But yeah, and you know, it's my own fault that I ended here instead of just continuing on. I don't know why that happened. The Junker 52 is a transport plane. Oh, you know what I forgot? When I looked at plane distances, I think I forgot the fact that you can rebase them up to double their distance. So I was looking at 40-somethings from Sicily. Yeah, no. I think that just barely couldn't have made it. Okay. But this guy's a transport. If I left him in Sicily, he could actually transport only 62, but if he stayed where he's going, 134, he could actually have transported in at that distance an extra token of supply. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to use a transport for. I've got a whole bunch of Junkers transports. It seems to me the best thing I can do, oh, Sicily to Tripoli is only 57. The best thing I can do is to transport supplies from Sicily to someplace like Benghazi. So let me calculate out that I did that, right? So this would have happened on the 22nd of January, which is this term. That can't be. That can't be. That's next turn. What the fuck? What is going on here? Place in any Italian headquarters the Bignami rag. That's up there, 22nd. Okay, so this doesn't come in until then. So I haven't fucked anything up with that. But now I have to look up the Flieger Corps, which actually probably could have gotten me a little bit more supply, and maybe I get the supplies in Benghazi back that I drained. By the way, I consider this kind of problematic. Like, this should be up here. I shouldn't be working my way down. Now, the fact that I preload my reinforcements, the only reason that I missed that is that I fucked up and cut here. But technically, by putting this down here, I could see people going a whole month without incorporating that. Like, I should have caught it earlier, but not everyone should have. You know, that's an artifact of how I set up the turns, the months, that I should have had an advantage that I didn't. So I'm a little pissed about how this is designed. I mean, shit happens, right? You know. But anyway, but a lot of it happens to me. Again, I will look up the Flieger Corps. I know they're the units with an X on them, but there's all kinds of special rules about them, where I can commit them to North Africa, or they can be committed to getting better supplies through, and I want to get better supplies through. Okay, so I've got a mess of stuff that I have to worry about for this Flieger Corps. First of all, I've got the rules on it themselves, which run this large. It operates around the fringes of play, representing either 2nd or 10th Flieger Corps at different times. The Flieger Corps is either active or inactive, referring to the Corps, not the units in it, in its basic duties of suppressing Malta. It does so according to random events or the historical arrival. Exception, the first is always, activation is always considered to be 1st of January, 41. Okay. When it's active, its air units can be detached for direct unit use in Africa. Based on the selection of air units listed on the Malta Table Modifier base listing of Map A. The groupings of air units listed that can be chosen, FK units released to the map are shown by those marked with large white X's. FK units can switch back and forth. The air units being transferred from the FK enter as reinforcements on the first turn of the month of transfer under the usual rules for air unit reinforcements. I'm not sure that I have any. So if I look here, active Flieger Corps with no detachments, I think that's the modifier that I'm going to be facing with this. I don't think I can detach these other units until they show up or something. I'm not absolutely sure, but it seems to indicate the air units being transferred from the FK enter as reinforcements. No, that's not it. FK units released to the map are shown by those marked with a... First month I can't detach. If a detached FK unit is reduced or destroyed, it must be brought up to strength. So the real question is, are these being tracked in the reinforcements somewhere? Or are these reinforcements that I can just detach no matter what? And I'm not certain from my reading of the rules. Right now I don't need them. So we're okay about that. What did I do? I didn't do anything with that Junkers plane because it hasn't come in yet. So I think we're okay, except that I should have gotten a +2 modifier on every die roll from here. What does that mean to me? I'm going to say that it means, because I've been pumping about everything I could here, but I did pump some extra stuff out of Benghazi. I'm going to say that I have at least one extra SP sitting in Benghazi that I've been moving, but maybe didn't have the capacity to move. And that gets us back to, hey, let's play the game. We got the Brits trying to push their attack. Not a lot further. They don't have the supplies to go much further. But if I can get Sidi al-Barani, I will be getting 2 more SPs, which is pretty important, and maybe some other stuff. This Italian unit comes in when Sidi al-Barani falls. We're in the midst of the British movement. They finished schlepping their supplies around, positioning ourselves for an attack on Sidi al-Barani. Now it's time to calculate, can I do the attack? And it's kind of painful. First of all, I've got to consider my barrage segment. Well, the Italians moved their planes back here. They don't have any air bases beyond Buk-Buk, or between Buk-Buk and there. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just short of Sidi al-Barani. I can slip my bomber in. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, because if I can get it disordered there, I don't have to commit artillery, and I am so fucking low on supplies. You can see 7th Armored didn't even really move forward. Now I got a couple extra tokens kicking around back here in organic trucks, which I will almost certainly use. I haven't been using them. They will help me to use, because I can run them back to here and pick up supplies there, which is a little out of range of me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fuck. I'm not in good shape here. I am essentially 1 hex short. Remember, there's the 1 hex close, or no, 2 hexes short, so 2/3 of a movement point short of getting supply from Mersa Matruh. So actually, I have almost nothing here. I have these 3 tokens. Could I do something with my headquarters to boost my supply throw? And I think the answer is yes, but I got to be careful to keep these guys into supply. So I may have to spend a supply to move these guys up here, because otherwise I don't have access to those 2 full supply points, and I kind of need them. Normal conditions, there's no way I would be trying to conduct an offensive under these conditions, like under this kind of supply limitation. I'm on a fucking shoestring here, and it's ugly. But the additional supplies that come in, if I get the capture, and the feeling of pressure to try to get to Tobruk, I feel like the Brits are way behind in terms of where they should be, because the Germans are coming. I mean, I don't think I'm going to make it, over to Benghazi and whatnot, which I'm supposed to be able to do historically. I just don't think so. I'm lucky if I get Tobruk, right? Wow. Viva la Italians, eh? Anyway, this is an obscene situation that I would just I'd be like, yeah, we can't continue an offensive, because in doing so, we're going to just make it so that we couldn't possibly defend ourselves if the enemy has any supplies. Now, Again, what I don't know is just how bad off the Italians are supply-wise either, but it's a lot easier to use supply usage is a lot less on defense than on offense. Unless, of course, you're building hedgehogs and throwing lots of artillery into the fight. All right, so the British bombers are successful, but the Italians are also successful on one of the two hexes they hit. Artillery's not in range. I chose not to roll for this because, I don't know. So I started checking for disorder for my bombers to work first mainly, but you know, these guys need fuel to operate, and yeah, it's not that great. Okay, that's going to put us to the combat segment. I could throw in artillery barrage, no reason to do so. I think what I'm going to do is attack just with this hex here, with the full strength units. Leave the half strength units out. I don't want to spend the supplies on them. We'll see what we can do. In some cases, I may have to go to low ammo to make this attack, or low supplies. And the big Italian division that was here, which I almost completely discounted because I left it there and unstacked everything else and counted everything else instead, which actually means that I owe another token of supply. The big Italian division that was there ended up able to hold out. I took the artillery in the headquarters as hits because that gives me opportunities to withdraw. The Brits took a hit as well, but they did not get Sidi Barani. And that's a big deal because this is the supplies that they need to keep pushing on. Now, they didn't spend that much. They spent the 2 points from the organic trucks and I think 2 more tokens for a couple more units. So it wasn't as big a hit as it could have been, right? Like, I didn't expend a lot of my supplies in this turn. But still, you know, it's like, yeah, this offensive is grinding down, and we have not achieved anything near the kind of success that I wanted from it. Am I high as to what I expected? I don't know, man. 7th Armored has really crapped out entirely in this particular operation. And is that it? Yeah, I just got cleanup at this point. When I marked this guy out of supply, I forgot to make an attrition check. I'm not used to sending troops out of supply on purpose. He's got an action rating of 2. I roll a couple of, he's probably just dead. Yeah, he's losing a couple of steps, he's dead. It was a foolish idea to send him out, but you know what? He wasn't doing shit anyway. That's kind of my view on him, is he wasn't really helping me much at all. He could have fallen back into this Jarabob, but there's really no, he was not serving any function as far as I'm concerned. Getting him killed, terrible. All right. Right now I'm trying to figure out with my Italians, honestly, I kind of like this. I kind of like holding Serial Barani because I'm there, but I don't know. I may have to give it up. Giving it up, though, allows the Brits to get that supply point situation relatively quickly. And then it makes like buck another 2 SPs. Very easy to take. Enough fuel for the Brits to just keep pushing just a little bit more each time. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing with either side. Like, the Brits are trying to press this attack, and I don't have the resources to do it. But I feel like I have to. The Italians, though, even after defending this, have fallen back. Now, one of the reasons for that is they actually couldn't fall back as long as they had that headquarters and that artillery unit. So they had to take those 2 as hits. And now I'm just pull back, maybe try to defend Buck, see what happens, you know. But my main goal at this point is Bardia Solem line, trying to hold that. Have at least a hedgehog there. I can't really afford to build more hedgehogs up here. Although I do have a reasonable amount of supply at Tobruk, I want that to fuel my artillery fire. So that's kind of some importance. Otherwise, I'm kind of at a loss. Like, I'm shipping materials here to Derna, do I really care? Derna's not that defensible. Yeah, it has some escarpments and everything. I'm probably better off, if I'm going to pick a place to defend, it's going to be right here at Barce. Because the road ends, actually there is no road, this is just a trail. There's really no road going through here. But the Brits could bypass that whole area. And the first place, like, there really isn't a place they can't bypass. They could bypass Benghazi. Of course, bypassing Benghazi is probably a bad idea because Benghazi is a powerful port, and I could operate out of Benghazi the same way as I could operate out of, say, Tobruk. I can't operate out of Derna that same way. There's a 2-token transport limit, which isn't bad. You know, it's what Solom and Bardia have, but they have 2 each, and they're close to each other, and you can kind of support each other, and they're close to Tobruk. So I feel like this is a defense I must make. The next ones are all pretty iffy, and I don't know why my truck is there, but that's where I parked it. It could have gone further towards Tobruk. It could not. It could choose to have gone less, dropped some materials off in the hills. Because kind of a Benghazi to here is kind of interesting. There's no ports other than Benghazi. But there's like nothing down here that's defensible as far as I'm concerned. Hey, there's a little bit of hill, or is that like a depression? What the fuck is that stuff? Is that a sea sand? I don't know. That's a salt marsh. I got no idea what that's like to deal with. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Is that stuff good? I doubt it. It doesn't sound it. It does count as close, which means it is pretty good. And it's penalties for the attacker. So, well, for like armored units. And you can't go walking around in it. You can't go driving in it. Okay. Well, yeah, that stuff could actually be pretty defensible. In the other game I'm most familiar with, Desert Fox, I think this is done as kind of like some sort of rough terrain, kind of like the foothills are and whatnot, which is probably about equivalent. The Katara Depression is much, much larger. What is this shit? Ugh. That's sand desert. I'm sure that's not good. Yeah, there's so much different terrain here. Sand desert, perfectly open, not good for armor. In that game, they, like kind of in Third Reich and whatever, the Katara Depression, just this whole area behind it is just considered off limits. It may not, the map doesn't go, well, yeah, it does. It hits the Oasi down here. So, yeah, it kind of goes pretty far down here. So I think they just kind of blank this out and say you can't go through it, but you could actually operate there. I don't know what the hell you'd do for supplies there. I've just covered it with my rules. Yeah, it doesn't look too easy. I mean, those trails and stuff, sure, you could supply through them. But anyway, in Desert Fox, you basically can't operate through this shit at all, for whatever that's worth. Doing a turn takes a lot out of me in this game. I definitely need a break of various kinds. I think maybe I'll be able to get a second turn in. Maybe. But that's it. And, you know, there's my day. About an hour of play, and that's about it. And then it's nighttime, and, you know, I find myself things that are even less productive to do. In the same position as last turn. No offense. Although I got into the rare events table. Not the super rare. Same position as last turn, But I'm going to be able to take City Barani. That'll get me 2 SP thrown in right here. I can also actually start shipping into it right away, if I recall correctly. Ports aren't damaged or anything like that. In fact, the only ports that I think can be damaged in this game are the ones with tracks. So I can always move some supplies in by sea to a lot of these places. Well, to kind of all of them. It's just a question of how badly damaged they end up. And I think I'm going to follow the same role. You know, if I can get to Buck quickly, good shit happens. So we just keep pushing these poor Brits. But also, it's obvious the Italians can't hold up. So we have that in our favor as well. I've got to try to figure out some way to get a supply line working and to get my headquarters somewhere. The one thing that prevents me from, running along the primary road track and then down this way at the same time is I only have one headquarters. If I had 2 headquarters, I could run quite a bit more of my force forward. All right. Now this sucks ass. I have to find the 136 Cav Battalion, CIH of the 4th Indian, and replace it with this Armored Car Battalion, CIH, 4th Indian. I have been hunting for it. I can't fucking find it. I sure the hell don't see any normal Cav kicking around, and I've been looking in the dead box and everywhere else. I don't know where it is. I don't know what has happened. But I finally found it. It was kicking up here. Oddly enough, it had motorized movement, even though it was supposedly normal Cav, which I don't know what's up with that. But that was part of why it wasn't doing what I expected it to be doing. But I still don't know why I didn't see it. Is that the only replacement right now? Yeah, that's the exchange right now. Next I get a heavy artillery exchange. Wow. Those exchanges, they're a fucking pain in the ass. It's one of the things that I really, really hated about Desert Fox. I don't remember if Africa had as extensive an amount of them. But yeah, they definitely make the game harder. And now I see, I've got this guy here, a support unit that has a couple of units stacked under it. Gonna have to recheck that as well. Make sure, hey, have I killed the 2 units that I need to kill in order to record that? On the British turn, they grab City El Brani, get the supplies for that. Move my headquarters up here. It can supply everything from up there and is in trace supply from Mersa Matruh. So by opening things up a little bit down here, getting this roadway that was absolutely key. I had to blast through those 2 left behind armor units. The Italians didn't want to spend the fuel to pull them out of there. They also didn't want to risk planes for bombing or anything. They just looked at them as complete sacrifices, and that's exactly what they were. But they did slow up the British attacks by a turn. Yeah, I could have maybe overrun them or something, but I don't have the resources to conduct multiple attacks very easily. So we're moving up into here against this unit, and that's going to have to probably extract itself. We're probably going to just, pull back and give up Buck as well. There was an Italian unit that got formed in Tobruk. When did the tanks show up? When did the tanks show up? That'll be here, I think. I really ought to get them into the box there. I don't know what that coastal is doing there. I'm going to have to try to figure out what the fuck that's doing there. I'm guessing that that's a coastal unit that got shipped into Bardia. It has no movement, so it wouldn't really make much difference. But yeah, there's some stuff that I have to kind of pre-program as the Brits are beginning to make their advances. The Italians just don't have the resources to continue fighting, and the Brits are getting kind of like, you know, we're not in as bad a shape as we were a turn ago. A turn ago, things were rough. Now that we've got Sidi El Barani, we have the 2 extra supplies there, and much, much more importantly, we can trace back to Mersa Matrua. Okay, granted, it's not that rich, but we can drive trucks to here, grab the resources from there, and push them forward just a tiny bit because the railway doesn't quite reach where we want it to. And I think that will put it on the Italian turn. It's already getting dark. As I said, you know, I play, you know, I need breaks, right? But actual playtime, maybe about an hour and a half, whatever, that's all I get in a day. And then, you know, and that's my doing. I could push more turns out if I lived on a normal schedule, but I'm unable to do that. Put a marker here, help remind me, you know. I wish I had a number on it, like the fact that it was 12, because if, you know, if it's not very long, it's going to swing back. It's going to swing back before the triggering happens. It might actually be worth letting the Allies hold things for their 2 months in order to, you know, get that additional supplies, especially for the Axis, because they really, really have a problem getting supplies on the board. If the campaign is at all historical, which I'm assuming it will be. But yeah, slowed up a little bit. The presence of this unit, I needed to clear that to be able to get these 7th Armored units. They're in trace supply, so they're not in any danger that way. But to get them in supply so I can fuel them up and whatnot. But they're just too fucking expensive to use, is what it comes down to. The fact that I have to fuel them up. No artillery used by the Brits this time. No planes used. We just busted right in. Because we knew we were facing garbage there. We could pretty much see that. Yeah, we could have been surprised, but yeah. And I just don't have the resources to keep using artillery. And that's one of the common problems in this game. Like, you have tons and tons of artillery and you never have the shells for it all. And I don't know how much, like, this has been one of the arguments people make against this, is that, like, look, Russian artillery on the East Front was incredibly effective and, you know, was vital to all their operations and whatnot, and you just can't fucking afford to use your artillery, ever. Well, I think you can use it at key points, and the real question is, do the numbers add up? I've heard people argue that, like, the drain on your artillery supply is just too high to justify, you know, how, to get anything like historical usages. But maybe players are like me, and they're like, if I can't get, you know, a really good chance of getting a disordered result, it's not worth it. And then when you look at it, you know, 1 supply point, that's not that bad, right? You know, if I'm going to throw in a bunch of units, like I'm probably going to have to throw at least 4 units in for an attack. That's a supply point there. I'm doubling my effectiveness if I get that disorder. So it doesn't seem unreasonable to me, but I know some people feel like they're just so handcuffed and can't do what they think they should be able to do. One of the arguments may be that there's just too much artillery points in the game, right? Because the guns are silent so much of the time. And that may be kind of more the feel, is that, like, you have too much capability. But that may be a matter of, look, that artillery wouldn't always be firing at continuous, continuous cycling, right? This isn't a World War I offensive where the artillery is just constantly blasting away. It might be that you're using smaller groups. Now, I don't think the game allows you to say, I'm only firing 11 of my 12 artillery points in this one piece. I don't think it allows that, and it really should, if that's the argument that's being made, is that like, yeah, it could put out 12 points of firepower, but what if you only want to put out 6? You should be able to, because you're just lessening the amount of shells that you're dropping while still using the artillery effectively. There's nothing in the rules that seems to allow you to lessen the amount of firepower you're dropping out of an artillery piece, and I don't think that's reasonable. I think that is an option that I think should be considered. And maybe it is, but that you have a flexible amount of shelling that you can do with an artillery, up to its barrage limit. Now, the truth of the matter is I can usually tinker things around just because I have far more artillery than I possibly need at all places, but if I had taken some losses on artillery and whatnot, I could, I could have less units available where I don't just have, a ridiculous amount of artillery in my park and like the capability to come up with whatever number I actually need, and instead, all I have is a 26-point big guns right at the front, and I either throw that in for a full supply point or I get nothing out of it. Well, that's not, to me, reflecting what I think the extreme expenditure argument for supplies for artillery really reflects. I think when you're using that extreme expenditure, you're really like, first of all, you're not only throwing a lot of shells, but you're also taxing the artillery itself. And that's something, that's coming out in the Ukraine war is like, yeah, we're burning out our rocket launchers and stuff like that. They need, they're firing so continuously, heavier than they should be, and that's actually taxing them, more than just the ammo that we need. We need to take them offline and repair them and stuff like that. And, without getting into all the details, throwing more supply at it makes sense for that. Anyway, where the hell am I? I think I'm doing the Italian turn. This is probably the last, this is definitely the last turn of the game, of today, because it's just too dark out. Okay, that Bardi artillery unit, I'm putting it back there. It's it's from back in the setup. It was allowed to be within a couple of hexes of Bardi. I'm just going to have it in Bardi itself, because whatever. So I think we're done. I'm not going to set up the captured Italian or armored units. When I hit them, I'll bring them in as I do. And, the Italians pull back a little bit more, just giving up ground as slowly as they possibly can. I don't have the supplies to build more hedgehogs. I'm just hoping that the Bardia Tobruk line holds. I may have expended too much here. I probably should have fortified this better and made it something I can hold. I am considering, assuming I understand the Fliegenkorps rules properly, I am considering, like a BF-110 and a Junkers 87. Well, if I take the BF-110, detach it, and the Junkers 87, that gives me more bomber. The BF-110 probably is just a fighter. Here I could detach larger and larger forces and start getting a painful modifier. Now, I've been at a 0 modifier because everything here talks about either no active Fliegenkorps January 41 or after, or an active Fliegenkorps with a lot detached like you have to detach stuff to get the penalty. So I'm just like, there hasn't been a modifier, but now there is from now on. So it depends on whether the fleeking core is active. It can be deactivated by events, or if it is if it's depleted. And from now on, I have to start worrying about this Malta-Air modifier and what to do with it. Yeah, okay. I think we're done for the day, and I've done all the little cleanup stuff that I really wanted to do. I'm kind of happy that the Brits are on the move. I'm also kind of happy that the Italians have stymied them to a certain extent. You know, it's like, it really feels to me like it was the 7th Armor that failed in its task. It did not live up to its historical effectiveness. And some of that may be my fault. Maybe I needed to get some artillery down there. Also, the British air power, I feel that that has been degraded more quickly, and that the Italians' successes are based to some extent on that as well. So I don't feel completely incompetent, but I might be. I might be. It'll be interesting to hear from those of you who are more knowledgeable about this game, if not the campaign itself. But, you know, I mean, it really has more to do to me about the game than the campaign, in the sense of, am I utilizing my forces effectively? Although possibly, you know, stuff just from a historical aspect will help me understand as well. Well, it seems like my battery's run out. Here it is, Tuesday, and I woke up less than an hour before I usually start playing Raid for the rest of the evening, night, whatever. And this isn't because I was downstairs playing Beowulf all night or anything. I played a little bit of it and then came back up. But I couldn't go to sleep. And that's the problem. I did do one thing. I moved one of them kind of big logs. You know, they don't look all that big. I think the fresh-looking one over there, up the driveway, and my arms fucking ache from it. I wasn't even sure I could lift those, but they're not as waterlogged as they looked. I got a couple that are bigger than that I absolutely have to cut before I can do anything with. But anyway, I gotta go grab my batteries and stuff because it's all downstairs, just to play, what, a turn? I don't know. It may just move one up. Light's already failing at this point. At least to the point where I need, with my eyes, a little bit more where the action's going. And that, of course, creates a great glare. So nothing too exciting. Italians won the initiative, forced the English to go first. No biggie there. And they, I think what else? They moved, no, and there's no weather and no events. That's all I meant to say. I had an obnoxious British reinforcement or replacement piece. An artillery, which, look, you know, it was like a 3-2-3 artillery, and it's been replaced with a 5-2-3, one with some anti-tank capabilities, of which there are a fair amount of them. And there's some point at which it just feels like, yeah, you know, this exchange has made no difference in the game, and honestly, I can't see how it could, right? I understand, you know, there's a process of, oh, well, the equipment was changed, and yeah, it would be better, and we should upgrade the points. But honestly, the Italians aren't making enough offensive operations using armor, and I don't know that they could up to this point in the game, and where you'd need the color shift. And in terms of the strength ship, nobody has the kind of supplies to be able to pump all of their artillery through. So I don't know. Figure out some way to use the 7th Armored, but I gotta tell you, and it may be because I used so much artillery or whatever, I just don't have the supplies to move them. You know, I mean, it doesn't pay for me to go fling them up here or anything like that when I'm out. You know, I've got my attacks. Now I just do not have the resources to keep going. And this is one problem I have as you know, somebody accused me, you'd probably make a good logistics officer or something like that. Once I pull the trigger to make my attacks, I try to make them as good as possible. And that involves throwing artillery and getting the enemy, getting a good shot at disordering the enemy and everything. And what I forget is how long I can maintain that attack. I mean, I've gone through, I don't know how much, I had certainly over 10, I think over 15 supplies there, and I have not gained much. And I feel like the British Army is done. You know, like, yeah, I could keep pushing like I did last turn, and maybe, you know, I get buck, and that gets me another 2 SPs, and that'll be my only way forward is these captures. But they're gonna run out. They're gonna run out. I'm gonna hit real resistance up here. I'm not gonna be able to just push that aside very easily. I'm gonna have to keep pumping supplies up. And I just don't have it. You know, I get, I get to pull some in here. This gets another token. That is a big deal. Because I get 2 tokens here, 2 tokens here, 1 token here, and now I get a token up here, which is all edible stuff. I can use, this I have to ship up to the front, but these I can use right away. I don't have to move them. I don't have to do anything with them the way I'm set up. But still, it's not very much. And my bomber, well, without fighter support, I'm not able to really to risk my bomber up there against the Italian fighters. I got trucks that are shifting materials, but the organic trucks aren't doing shit unless I attack, and then, you know, they shift some materials from here up to wherever. It really kind of doesn't matter where. I could have them parked in Mersa Matrua for all it mattered. I move them up to the front a little bit more with the thoughts of, well, they should be closer, but they don't need to be. Yeah, it's, I'm out. I'm out of supply. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the offensive is essentially done. It's just, can I creep forward on it? Jiggling around with supplies using my trucks and everything, what did it get me? A little bit more Mersa Matrua. I pulled them out of here. Pulled some out of Alexandria, but it's a long drive. That's all I can do, you know? It's all I can do. It just doesn't look like much. But that's what we got. And now we're in supply. The Italians get their reaction, and now they have their bombers that can try to prevent further pushes by the Brits here towards Buck. And probably don't want to use my actual supplies for my artillery. Although I have a fair amount in Tobruk, there's just sort of the... Is it raining? It's just the wind. I don't see any wetness. There's the possibility that my artillery could be very helpful there, that I might lose air superiority. But right now, the British advance is just so stymied, I fear. The Brits decide to try Buck, even though one of their stacks is disordered. The chance of them being able to get 2 stacks that aren't disordered coming in, or 1 big stack that's not disordered coming in, are very, very low. So I went in with this. I ended up on the 1 to 2 table, but I got very, very lucky. I didn't get surprised, but I got a nice big roll. I had the modifiers in my favor, so I ended up losing 1 step to essentially 2 steps for the Italians. The Italians could have retreated again, but they chose not to because they're trading shitty units for the most part for ground and time. And that's working out pretty well for them. Yeah, I lost a 3-point machine gun unit. Those units, I may really miss them when I hit up in the Tobruk area, where I have to defend a lot of ground. But if they never make it that far, it's just not going to happen. And I am realizing that the Brits don't seem to have a lot of ammo, a lot of supplies, because 7th Armor's not moving, they're not doing anything. Hey, if they're going to just try to bash their way through, let them come. Let's trade shots that way. And then the British get to recover. I had been hoping to take Buck. I don't know what I was hoping, but it turned out there were 2 Italian divisions there, a lot of stuff. My artillery was able to knock it out. And this is the thing, you don't know what the enemy has in their hex. So you look at the bombardment table and you're like, where do I start getting good? And I'm like, well, I could get to here, but I could also get to here, and this is almost assured. So let's do this one. And then I end up, getting 3-4 column shifts and being all the way over there. But I don't know that he's got divisions there. I'm trying to remember what the scouting rules are, because those might help me towards determining how much artillery to throw in. There's an optional rule that certain recon units, and I am guessing that they all require me to use fuel, any unit, regiment, or smaller with a recon, motorcycle, armored car, cavalry, or commando. You lost my commando unit, I know that. The cavalry used fuel for some reason. They were gas-powered horses. I don't think I have anything on the British side that wouldn't use at least a token of fuel for this. But it might be worth it. But it spends a quarter of its movement point. And again, this is an optional rule. And an additional token of supply to recon an adjacent hex. Then the other player reveals the total number of steps. Well, am I going to save 2 tokens by my recon? I doubt it. I really doubt it. Because that would get me down to here. And, I think I can know my artillery density or my barrage strength density within enough that, like, that many columns of difference is just, ridiculous. I'd rather waste a token or 2 on the artillery than then waste it on recon and find out I need all the tokens that I was throwing in anyway. So yeah, I just don't see the recon being terribly valuable here. I remember kind of passing it off. Now, I didn't think it gave you total steps. It gives you the total number of steps that the enemy has, which is a big deal. It doesn't give you their strength point or the actual counters or anything. It gives you the total number of steps, which is really useful for artillery spotting. And it gives you whether there's anti-tank capability present. And that also could be pretty useful. But in this case, I would have only been interested in the steps, and the cost for this of 2 tokens is just too high to do any kind of recon. Of course, I got spotters there, but they can't, they're helping the artillery see what's going on, but they can't tell me anything about the composition of the enemy forces. All I'm allowed to see of the enemy forces is not that, but whatever the top unit is. Look, there's a 1-point unit there. There is a combat unit there. It has a quality of 2. Whoop, whoop. I get to know all that information, but I don't get sort of this very base level, well, how big a force am I looking at, What are they equipped with? Nothing like that, without spending a lot more. So, yep. More supplies wasted, therefore, and here I feel more like, shit, I lost another good unit is the bigger deal. But in a way, the supplies are also a big deal. I ended up spending 3 tokens for the attack, plus like a full supply point for the supply. That's pretty much a turn's worth of supply coming in when it comes down to it. You know, the 3 tokens for attack is what I get here. Get 1 more token there. And then the full supply point, yeah, that's about what my trucks can manage. If I don't gain territory, I'm never going to have the fuel. You know, if I don't gain the rewards from these things, I'm never going to have the fuel for these. And honestly, I just don't have. Oh, fuck. Again, these damn charts. Starting in November 40, the Western Desert went up to 1 full supply point. I've got a ton more supply than I've got. Ah, son of a bitch. All right, well, we're playing a fantasy world right now. I'm gonna account for that this turn. But we're playing a fantasy world where the English just never got their supplies. God. All these charts all over the place where things change, it's hard to bake it in to my prospects of look stuff up on here and figure out what do I have. And I just, Jesus Christ. The delta doesn't matter. This has been the same. The coastal shipping, it's 1 SP. I'm almost at the limit of that. But the railway, November, December, and all of January, we're talking 10, 15 supply points I would have had up here. I would have no problem. I would be able to charge all over the fucking place. So, yeah. This feels almost like I should clean it up now, but honestly, other than the fact that Tobruk is probably not going to fall because of this, and it probably would have fallen for it. I don't know. Who knows? Because I'm told Tobruk is hard to take no matter what in this game. But the anti-tank ditches are gone because I found that in there. Other than the fact of all that, you know, the Germans are going to just come and they're going to sweep the Brits aside. So I think we just pay the price and settle down and say, you know what, we fucked up. We're not going to restart the game. That is just not going to happen. So we're going to start, we're going to play this as though British had some severe rail supply problems early on, interfered with compass. It's a what-if scenario. Fuck it. It's better than any other options I have. That's the big problem. I start each turn, right? I start each month. So the big changes happen on the months. I start each month on a given, with a given sort of pattern in place. And that pattern is, I burn the supply dumps. That's something I can remember. I set up my reinforcements. But there are so many fucking disparate charts all over the place. Now, knowing what I know, here's what I would do. Each time I make one of these mistakes, I would start carving the information into the reinforcements chart. Because I gotta look at that every month to set this thing up. Or every turn, really, in a lot of cases. So I'm constantly having my eyes on that. I'm not constantly having my eyes on all pieces of information that are on the board. And there's too much to remember to not have some sort of notation when things change in a singular place. Luck, you know. This may be peculiar to me. This may, so there's things like the Greek campaign stuff. That's baked into there. Yay! I was so happy to see that because I know I would just fucking forget it otherwise. But the fact that these logistic chart changes aren't there. Now, I gotta say one. Over here, every fucking month has its own numbers. you can't put that in here. But that has become part of my routine now. But now I have to realize part of my routine is to look here as well. Even though this has very little modification, and in fact has no modification that should affect the game anymore. Because this is always 1 SP. This has gone up to 1 SP for the rest of the game. And the delta, who cares about the delta? You know, I mean, okay, once the Germans are up here, I'll start worrying about the delta. I might have to move stuff there, but I'm not allowed to move SPs there. I'm only allowed to move units using that. If I want to move SPs around, which is the important thing in general, I got to use the WDR even if it's in the delta, which feels a little fucked up, but it stops you from having to cheat stuff. Oh, I've got more mail. Okay. I guess on to the Italian turn, but again, we're in a what-if scenario now, no longer trying to play anything like the historical situation. The Brits just did not have the supplies at the beginning, and, you know, honestly, 7th Armor got its ass kicked also, so. It's definitely a, I don't know, a movement in my head towards, just clean it up, you fucked up. This is too big a game to play anyway, but you know, I've made some ground. I've made some ground. Sure, it's the easy part of the game, but there's going to be lots of downtime. And this is, you know, accepting that you fuck up and not restarting or quitting or whatever is part of how I get through my games. If I don't do this, if I insist on perfection or whatever, what am I going to do? Oh, look, I got a bad roll. I got to restart. You know, things didn't work out. They're not turning out historically. Part of it is to see the what-ifs. And sometimes people are happier when they get a game that gets the what-if cover, you know, that gives you those what-ifs covered in it. What if the British compass didn't have enough supply at the beginning? That's this game. And that's fine, you know. A lot of it is to explore those, what happens different from history. But I'm glad to know that it's not just me. Like, I'm glad to know it's me mismanaging and not noticing the supply points, rather than me mismanaging my use of artillery and attacks. I may be doing those things, but I really felt like I had, you know, completely fucked my British up, and I'm a lot more upset by that than I am by not noticing a chart. During the Italian turn, I'm going to use this Junkers 52 to pick up a unit of the Ariete division. I'm going to fly it over from Sicily to Tobruk. Now, to this space here is 129. I have only 124. Can't do it. Okay. Not going to do that. I could fly it to here, 119, 120, 121, 122. That will, flip the air unit upside down. And this will have been transported in, and it'll be in movement mode. And now I've gotten myself, I've got the map upside down, so it's kind of weird. I've got myself another unit into place. Now, that used the entire movement of the air unit. I'm going to have to expend supply to fly it back, to recharge it and fly it back anywhere. But okay, you know. Did I already spend the points to resupply those guys? I don't think I did. I think I owe a couple of tokens there as well. I didn't invert them, but the Italians lost another bomber. So, I mean, they are kind of wearing down, but this is what they got. And I don't know. I'll be shifting some more forces, but I'm not going to be doing much. There's no danger of me being attacked here because these guys don't have a reserve marker on them, so they can't do anything during the reaction phase. If there was a comp group marker on them or something, I would be more worried. But now with all the leaders gone, I don't have to worry as much about the Brits being, incredibly reactive. Incredibly so for the OCS. The leaders and the comp groups really do something very, very different from most other OCS games that I've seen. Well, from all that I've seen. I said, I'm actually kind of relieved that I found what my fuck up is. Like, I was really worried that this is me misplaying the game. Misplaying the strategy to such an extent that I could not get anything reasonable out of the Brits. I just didn't have the supplies. I haven't been profligate with my artillery particularly. I've used what I felt I needed. Okay. And let's see, the Italians are actually having some trouble in terms of shifting stuff around. Like, I've got this huge truck. You would think that would be great, but I don't really have much I can do with it. I'm happy with the supplies being up here that are on map. I've got like one more supply point over here. Everything from Benghazi is gone. There's no more I can ship from Tripoli. I'm getting that at as fast a rate as I can go. And I don't know what else to do. It's like, yeah, I've got my supplies where I want them. I don't want to build more hedgehogs. I'm holding out miraculously because the Brits didn't get their rail net, their rail capacity where they wanted it or where it belonged, and that's fine. I think that's end of turn. I've moved this already, and I think I just I stopped for today because it's well past raid time. I need food, and I don't know what else to say. Here it is, Wednesday, and I went down and grabbed my garbage. My neighbor actually split like the last log that I left down there in the easy place. I still got a couple of nightmare pieces to do. The ones that I can't bring up without cutting, but it's just kind of funny. But I've got them collecting up. I'm starving, first of all. I just woke up, but it's like, what is it? Oh, Jesus. I can't remember time anymore. Like everything's all fucked up. I've got it at I guess it's like 3:30 to be real, 4:30 my time, and I slept more than I expected I would. I've been sleeping too much, and yeah, I've got like a half hour of time before raid starts, where I'm normally there. Plus, I really do need to eat, but I figure I'm going to try to squeeze out the last turn of the month here, which is maybe not that great because then I have to do the monthly setup, and we all know how good I am with that and how much I fucked up with it so far in terms of not catching, things like the additional rail points that are coming in, just because there's just so many charts all over the place, so many little boxes, so many little things. It's, if the two logistical charts were the only two charts on the board, I would be paying more attention to them. But with so many different blades bopping all over the place, it's like, some of those fucking complex Euros that just have shit all over the place. I had the same problem with Europa Universalis, whatever I call EU Pop. I don't remember what it is. It's the Eurofied version of the computer game, where there was just so much information out there, I could not keep track of it all. So I was constantly losing parts of it. Over time, you start remembering what's important. But anyway, let's kick a turn into play, and I'll roll some dice and see what happens. No weather, but we got an event. And the Brits have the opportunity, I think they're going to take this, to force the Italians to go first. The reason, they're not dug in here, and I don't see any real advantage to trying to push first. It doesn't look like reinforcements are coming that way. If anything, the Italians might give us ground, although it doesn't look like they're going to do that. But another strong reason is I got this major Italian shipping success, January 41 or later. We're in there. We're in January 41. This turns shipping losses due to Malta table are halved. There probably aren't going to be any anyway because of the Fleeing Corps being in place, but I would have trouble remembering that random event if I did the British turn first. This is one of the, I don't know what you can do, You could mark this event or try to position it somewhere, but there's no real easy way to remember. And, some games put like a counter for events and stuff. That doesn't really help me either in a game of this size with this much crap going on it. It is painful to me. So, yeah, we'll force the Italians to go first just for that, if nothing else. Funny, I get, I mean, it was more than a week ago or so. I get these calls or whatever, and I was very, very sick. Okay, that's fine. But then 2 weeks ago, no? I can't fucking remember. I think it was 2 weeks ago. It's still lingering on in some sort of form. I've got like a filled up nose and shit like that. I don't feel bad or anything. But when I'm up here talking, I'm getting this, and every now and then I have to blow my nose. It doesn't feel like I'm sick, but it's like there is this continuation. It could have been a lot worse. I've had these where I stay very, very ill, very runny, and everything for this period of time. But I wonder when it's going to go away, It's like, I've had these last months sometimes. All right. I had to look up, in this game, most things that you can build, you can also unbuild or disassemble. And in this case, that's the case. As long as I stay here, I can take this 1-point airbase off the map. Now, I don't get it back there like I would. I don't think you can do this with hedgehogs, though. Like I would with, say, a minefield or something. But I at least get to deny the fruits of my effort to the Brits, although it's relatively cheap. I believe it was just a token or two to build an airstrip up to an airbase level 1. But I think it's just 1 token. The same as the refit cost. But no reason to leave that behind, especially since I'm staying in that hex. Another such chart. I'm done with the Italians. They basically didn't do shit. I caught another such chart that is potentially problematic, which is the variable reinforcements tables. Again, this might be in there. That would be helpful. But I can't be certain that it is, unlike the Greek stuff, which is. So I've put a couple of replacement counters in there or whatever in order to note at least what month it's going to start. The Italians, it's going to start right away. They're going to start getting replacement points very, very shortly. For the Brits, though, it doesn't come until April of this month. It's kind of weird because it's like, it's not just April. It's turned 26 April that I start getting these replacements, which feels like, it's harder than hunting down individual month changes. I think the February one, 1st of February, but Brits, I've moved my supplies around already. 7th Armored, I just don't want to spend the gas on pushing them up this way. I don't feel like I'm ready to put pressure on Bardia yet. Had I had the fuel available when I should have earlier, and the resources, yeah, you know, maybe I would have chased the Italians up there, but now they're in place, and I just don't feel like it's worth, you know, risking them. Are they terribly effective in this direction? Not really. But now here comes the question. I'm thinking about making this attack on Buck. Again, I'm still low on supplies, so I don't want to push too hard. If I push that attack on Buck, there's two ways I can do it. One, I can rely on lots of artillery that happens during my combat phase and go into the combat segment. But if I do that, I allow the Italians a first shot at hitting me with their airplanes. I could get lucky. I kind of got lucky last time. One of my stacks wasn't hit. But I think I'm better off doing an overrun and saying, look, we're going to go at 1-to-1, you know, we're going to go without a disorder on either side rather than the other way. And I might have enough of a quality advantage that it's worth it. So if I'm doing that, I may just fuel up. I have a unit of the 6th Australians here, another 3 strength points, that I may just push forward in order to get there. These guys are 2nd armored. It's not a very big division. It is green, but you know, I'm not really using it in the battle. I don't feel like I can hit both these positions right now. And this is part of the problem. The Italians are getting to withdraw all their units because I can't hit them fast enough because of the supply fuck-up I did. On the surprise with a big 6 roll, which got me a good die roll here as well, an AE3 DL202 DG. Okay, the Italians took their option as retreats and fell back. The only British unit with enough movement to keep attacking would have been this. I don't want to attack with just that, but I push my way through. I get Buck, that gives me 2 more supply points. And that Italian position is now degraded. I don't know if I'm going to march into here, because I'm in a position where now all of these could combine in and attack this, and maybe that's worth doing. In which case, I'll actually, I'll not advance this unit. Maybe that's worth doing for a number of reasons. First of all, I've got zones surrounding it, which is going to make its life more difficult, and I can do that. So I can't use the exploit because this was an overrun. But I can do another combat in the combat phase, and thus, you know, try to clear this line a little bit more quickly. Stupid rounding rules get even uglier because I've got a slightly over an 11-to-1 attack happening over here. My artillery was successful. The Italian planes were unsuccessful before that at even disordering some of those forces. I spent way too much. I'm out of supplies again, right? I spent way too much launching this attack between the artillery fire, which may have been too much, because I don't know what chart I got up at. But anyway, the point that I was trying to make is that we've got these jumps in the chart. So like here, you know, so I calculated out in my head, and I'm able to get to, okay, it's 11-to-1, but not 12-to-1. And now I look here, and this isn't too bad, because I can see that a little over 11-to-1 is better, is more than halfway, so I go over onto the 12-to-1 chart. But, you know, it gets more annoying. Like, what, you know, here it's like, what, 13.5-to-1? You really do need a calculator for this game. Anyway. I'm going to be on here with, I guess, a +2, because the quality of the troops is better there, even though they're already disordered. Now, we got a pretty decent result. Deal 1, option 2. The option was taken to retreat. an attacker exploit 4. This is an obnoxious exploit because it cuts my counters. So technically, if I wanted to mark this correctly, I would have to put exploit counters on these, this on top, exploit counters on a couple of these and one of these. And I'd have to rearrange my counter stack and then kind of hide the exploit markers. As it is, because there's not a lot going on the map, I can just kind of say, hey, you know what? I can remember the AE4 effect and go here to my exploitation phase and immediately take advantage of it. And the extra movement and the potential additional combats, although, I mean, I want to do them, but I may not have a lot of movement point. I don't have very mobile forces, and I don't have a lot of supplies to help push this forward. What I've done is I've put the markers after the movement because that'll help remind me what I'm attacking and stuff like that. I'm going to actually hit both units. I also caught myself, hey, look, I got like this, actually I got this too. I'm not sure they came from City Brownie, but whatever. I've got these trucks that were involved in that their units were involved in the combat. Let me take the 3 tokens back on the board because these guys can run back, grab stuff from my railhead, and move back. It's just this obnoxious little, you know, I'm doing all this effort to get 1 extra token here, 1 extra token there of supplies, and yeah. It just feels so fucking picayune for the amount of effort that I'm having to do on it. Give me a little bit more transport. I don't know, you know, obviously I can't, the idea of just detaching the organic trucks and using them as normal trucking would be way too powerful. Dean makes that clear in his notes for the option, giving the access that option. But, you know, maybe giving like a quarter of the trucking or something like that and just say, screw it, make it easier. You know, I just feel like the organic trucks are causing this obnoxious level of pain. If they were bigger, if they were big enough to supply the unit, that would be great. But it's like 1 token of truck for a division. What's that gonna fucking do me? Okay, so the British exploitations were successful. They've pushed the advance out here. I have, though, again, largely drained my supplies. You know? Yeah, I've got the 2 full supply points at Buck. That's a big deal. I've even, like I said, drained into the trucks. I destroyed one of the Italian comp groups by wiping out its units. One of the attacks felt like it was a little overpowering. Both got good results. The other one felt like I was kind of lucky to have gotten a good result off of it. Like one of them, I was way up on the combat chart. And this is one of the things, even with just having conducted the attacks, there's enough mechanically or mental mechanically going on in this game that I don't necessarily remember how many strength points there are in the fucking stack I just hit. Now, I'm sure that there are people who can keep track of that pretty well, but like, I was kind of shocked to hit 1 stack and get 13-to-1 odds and the other stack and get 2-to-1 odds. You know, I just was. And under those conditions, if you can't remember what's in the stacks, and this is the kind of information that maybe opposed I would have an easier time with, but not a hell of a lot. I would still make these mistakes. And therefore, spending all that supply, attacking with all the units I could was necessary. Sure, if I knew that I was hitting at 12-to-1 or 13-to-1, whatever, I would have said, you know, I'm not going to hit with all of that. I'm going to go on the 6-to-1 or 8-to-1 or somewhere around there. But then I pulled like a 2-to-1 on the other attack, and I'm just like, yeah, I got really lucky with my with my surprise roll and ended up on the big chart, but that wasn't guaranteed. And therefore, I kind of feel like you got to hit with everything you got, because you can't be absolutely sure, if you're me, what you're facing, because you can't paw through the enemy troops and figure out what the odds are. And I find that kind of disturbing. It's like I have this really bad, very short-term memory for these kind of things, and I think other people maybe don't have as much of a problem. You can mark it up to what you like, but it does mean that my officers have to attack with everything, you know? They just have to. And if they don't, I'm gonna fuck up more often. However you want to look at that. I think we're in cleanup, and I don't think there's any cleanup to do, which means we have finished the month. It's dark already. It doesn't look it out there, but here I'd have to start relying on these lights. Can I do it? Yeah. I think I may have to, in order to set up the next turn, but I can do this. And then, you know, it's funny, I'm awake, like today. I went to bed at about 4 a.m. or something. Part of that is I'm starting to try to re-prepare and start up my Gloomhaven game again. I'm probably not going to video it, but give me something to do in the dark hours. And try to break away from Raid. But, and from sitting in front of the computer, which is really the issue. Because I break away from Raid and I just fucking watch videos and shit like that for hours and hours and hours, or go find some other game to play in the meantime on the computer. But yeah, I wake up at like 4 a.m. or I go to bed at 4 a.m. and I wake up at 8 or 7 or something like that, you know, a couple hours later, and then I'm up for a couple more hours, but I'm sleeping like 10, 12 hours a day, you know, and that's part of what's going wrong here, for whatever that's worth. Anyway, I've got to do setups for the next month, and otherwise, though, we're going to load this up, and cheers.